Okay, Erica, you're all set. You just need to sign here.
Hey Erica, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. What's new?
When's your next video coming out?
You know, I've been holding off on filming it because I've been sick. And I wanted to give the people my best effort.
Well, some of the best performances have come when people are sick.
You know, you're right. 1997, Michael Jordan single-handedly beat the Jazz with the flu.
Michael who? Or how about when Kerry Strug stuck that landing at the Olympics?
You know, you're right. I'm going to go stick this filming.
Yes.
Hello everyone, I am Nate Crosby. Welcome back to our Wealth Series. A few years ago, a gentleman was in my office and he said, Nate, I want to achieve long-term wealth accumulation, but I do not want to do so at the expense of my present life. What do you think? Am I crazy? And I said, no, I don't think you're crazy, at least not about your financial goals. It is possible to achieve long-term wealth accumulation without sacrificing your present life, but in order to do so, your saved and invested dollars must have highly specific jobs to perform. We must allocate some of that towards long-term growth, and we must allocate some of that to what we call lifestyle growth. And our dynamic wealth account is a perfect example of lifestyle growth. Today, we will discuss how a dynamic wealth account fits within a financial plan. All right, last time we left off, we were talking about how to structure savings and investments to achieve long-term wealth accumulation in the real world. And we determined that an efficient way to do this was to create specialization within your saved and invested dollars. And we compared this to owning a company. If you owned a company, you would not have your employees just show up to work and randomly perform any job they felt like performing. You would have each employee perform a highly specific job for the company. Thus, your financial plan works the same way. Your saved and invested dollars should perform a highly specific function for the overall plan. Now, how do we achieve this? Because we all have limited resources we can allocate towards our savings and investment. The way we do that is we take whatever percentage we are currently working with, and we will split that into three categories or three purposes. We will take a third of our savings and put that to our long-term growth investments. Those are the retirement accounts. Those are the 401ks. Those are the IRAs. Whatever vehicle you're using for long-term retirement savings. We will take a third and put it into what we call our cash account. Now, last time we talked about the cash account and how its primary job is to protect the long-term growth account so that we never have to access that long-term growth account until retirement years. That cash account is a conservative account. It's designed to keep up with inflation. It's highly accessible. If we need that money tomorrow, we can go get it. It does produce dividends and interest in order to keep up with inflation. And we will continue to fund that cash account until we achieve about 6 months worth of income. And at that time, we will cut it off. Why? Well, this account is a taxable account. We want the 6-month cash cushion, but we do not want it to grow too large. Why? Well, we do not want it to grow so large that it negatively affects our tax burden. And then the final third is put into what we call our dynamic wealth account. Now, dynamic wealth, what the heck is that? A dynamic wealth account is many things to many different people, and ultimately the investor will determine what type of investment will serve as their dynamic wealth account. I've seen a dynamic wealth account range anywhere from a tax-managed investment fund to high cash value dividend-paying life insurance. It depends on what the investor wants to accomplish. Our job is to help them ask the right questions so we can determine what type of investment is best suited to serve as their dynamic wealth account. Now, all dynamic wealth accounts have several things in common. The first is it produces very strong dividends. And at different stages and for different purposes, we will use these dividends for different things. For example, we may, as they are generated, we may send the dividends over to our cash account. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, let's look at the cash account's primary job. Cash account's primary job is to protect our long-term growth account. When expected and unexpected expenses arise, we can go to that cash account in order to pay for them. So maybe the furnace breaks down, or maybe you need a new vehicle. We can go to that cash account to get the money, pay for the vehicle, thus you're not paying somebody else interest. Then we can use the dividends generated by the dynamic wealth account to pay back the cash account. Thus, so it is whole again, and the money is there next time you need it. We may take the dividends and send it to ourselves as income. There may be times in your life where you need some extra income, and rather than get a part-time job, we send the dividends from the dynamic wealth account to ourselves to supplement our income. We may take dividends and send them to our long-term growth accounts. Why would we do this? There are times within the market cycle where the market provides buying opportunities, where we have pullbacks, maybe we have a recession, and most of us do not have a whole lot of extra money sitting on the sidelines that we can capitalize on those opportunities when the market presents an opportunity for us. So one way we do that was we take dividends generated by the dynamic wealth account and we use them to overfund our long-term growth accounts, thus allowing us to capitalize on buying opportunities. And the fourth thing we may use the dividends for is for reinvestment. We are systematically adding to our dynamic wealth account with each paycheck or however often we decide to fund it, and having those dividends reinvested will help us grow that account faster and larger. Now, what are some other features about a dynamic wealth account? Well, it tends to have a moderate rate of return. Our target return for most dynamic wealth accounts is between 4 to 6%. The account is highly accessible like the cash account. If we need to go get money, it's there and we can get it without penalty. As mentioned before, it produces very healthy dividends, and we set no growth limit on this account. Actually, we want this account to grow very large. Because of that, this is very important. This account must be either tax-free or tax-managed. Tax-free or tax-managed. We do not want the value of this account to negatively affect your tax burden. And the dynamic wealth account's effect on your overall plan, it provides protection, it will fuel growth, and it can also be used as a financing tool. Now, your cash account and dynamic wealth account compose what we call our lifestyle growth. This is money that we're growing. It's benefiting ourselves, but it's accessible. It's highly accessible. If you look at initially how we set this plan up, we have a third going into the cash account, we have a third going into the dynamic wealth account, and we have a third going into the long-term growth account. So thus, initially, 2/3 of the money we're sending towards savings is liquid. We could go get that money if we need it. And then, as you would imagine, the long-term growth is what we call our long-term growth money. So we have lifestyle growth and we have long-term growth. What are some other characteristics of this type of a plan? Well, let's look at the way that these things are invested. Our cash account, as mentioned before, is a conservative account. Our dynamic wealth account, as mentioned before, is a moderate account. Now, how does this come into play? Well, depending on what the market is doing, assuming the dynamic wealth account is invested in the market, we can decide where to go to in order to get cash when we need it. There may be times when the market is experiencing a loss, and we might not want to go to that dynamic wealth account and pull money out at a loss. Other times we might. Maybe there's, for tax reasons, we might want to be able to pull money out at a loss. So having it invested both conservatively and moderately gives us the option of where to go to get that money. And as you might imagine, the long-term growth account is designed for growth allocations, and these tend to be a little bit more aggressive because we're looking at timelines that are 15 years or more into the future. Now, aside from having diversification in how these accounts are invested, we also have some diversification in the tax structure. The cash account is taxable. Every year we are going to be taxed on the growth of that account. The dynamic wealth account is either tax-free or tax-managed, and the long-term growth account is typically either tax-deferred or tax-free. Now, this is just a generic example of how we may structure savings and investments to work in synergy. This by no means is a tailored plan. But hopefully this will serve as an example how, with really no additional resources or allocation than you are already giving, how it is possible to create balance within your plan and promote long-term wealth accumulation without sacrificing your present life. Well, next week we're going to dig a little bit deeper into our long-term growth accounts, and what we're going to show you is how we can structure the long-term growth accounts so that when you fund them, you can achieve victory before fighting, financially speaking, of course. Until then, thank you for listening. I'm Nate Crosby of Crosby Advisory Group. We'll see you next time.